back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast. Welcome. As the entire crew is back and at it, ready to join you again. We've got lots to talk about. Of course, all kinds of stuff with the college football getting the reboot. The Big 12 virtual media days were just canceled today. Also, we've been out to some camps, and we're going to talk about that now because the entire panel is joining us. Josh McQuistion, welcome back to the show. Eddie Radosevich and Bob Przbillo. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing well.
Wow, what a fucking electric start to the show.
I never know who's supposed to talk in that.
Let's not all talk at once.
I just didn't want to talk over anybody, but doing well. I don't have the COVID. I know somebody that does, and we're thinking about him. Governor Stitt.
I like how somebody calls him somebody on my timeline is referring to him as Governor Business, like from the Lego movie.
I don't know. I saw that yesterday, and I chuckled as well. I thought that was pretty funny.
Doesn't he have a plan, though?
Yeah, his plan is personal responsibility.
No, I mean, Lord Business has a plan.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Lord Business.
Taco Tuesday.
Lord Business was
Kraken.
very organized. He did actually control things. Yeah,
to a minute degree.
Unlike Governor Business.
Believe it or not, I've watched Lego Movie a time or two.
Well, all the fingers should be pointing at me because I have no kids and I've seen that movie multiple times.
It's funny.
It's awesome. The second one wasn't.
The second one kind of sucked. I only watched it one time.
Yeah, the first one's incredible.
The whole Tiffany Haddish Batman thing was just a little too much for me in the second one.
Oh, you couldn't get there?
Yeah, the whole Batman storyline was just weird.
Yeah, it's much better when he's super aloof.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I think that the reason I'm talking about this is because I have been continuing my pandemic activities, which I had a giant box of all of my G.I. Joes that my parents had lugged off on me, and I spent most of yesterday organizing it. And I got to tell you, after looking on eBay and checking it out to find out how much stuff this is worth, I was really into G.I. Joes from the years 1982 to 1983, and then that was it.
Did anybody else think Carey was about to announce his retirement? Like he was like, and I'm done with this.
Well, yeah, I thought you were going to say I am sitting on a gold mine or something like that.
I mean, I'm sitting on several.
I'm
sitting on several hundreds, maybe $1,000 worth of stuff.
I'm a thousandaire. I'm out.
But no, I mean, it is like the dividing line is clear. Like, I found a website where you could look up where all the toys are and like what you have. Like really into it, 1982, 1983, sort of into it, and then guess what? Junior high and girls and music hit, and then me and all my friends were out.
So are we thinking like basically 4th and 5th grade is the peak?
Yes, yeah. 6th grade, you started going with girls, going to parties, dances.
That's true. That's a good point. I was the same way.
I don't think there's anybody that didn't grow up in the late 90s in Oklahoma City that did not attend the 7th, 8th grade dances at War Acres Community Center.
Ours was the Catholic church because, we were Baptists. So we had to go.
Yeah,
we had to go.
You had to go.
We needed the
dance with
Catholics.
The people in the world.
No, we didn't. No, I mean the other Baptists were going too. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We welcome everybody, and I bet a priest gave you a cigarette.
Not in Duncan. No.
Yeah, that's probably true.
That must have been an Oklahoma City thing.
Oh, it very much was.
No, but I mean, it is. I don't want to start off the pod like being too profound, but one thing that it does, like with me, it's records and watches. Like Josh has his stuff. I don't know that Eddie does, but like aren't we just collectors? Like we're just born to be collectors as men. I think we just collect shit, man.
and it's always random. Like every guy has their stuff that's weird. Like, and it goes for me. I don't know about you, Carey. It goes in cycles. Like,
yeah,
I go like tools. I'll get real tool crazy for a while. And I want tools, and then I want some stuff for my car or whatever.
But it has a like there's a basis. There is a foundation of why we get into something. Like it's not just haphazard. Like there's a like we get centrally focused on collecting something. And this just shows me all the G.I. Joe stuff. It shows me I've been doing it since the 4th grade.
Were you guys big baseball card guys? Like,
my dad and my brother were huge into that. And that's why I had so much G.I. Joe shit, is because they were doing baseball cards while I was doing G.I. Joe.
I mean, I can tell you
how many Michael Jordans I have. I have so many Jordan cards. I don't know if they're worth anything. I don't know. I know the card market like crashed like 15 years ago. So I don't know if they're worth a dang thing now.
No, it was when I was growing up. You wanted the Don Mattingly rookie card. You wanted the Mark McGuire. You wanted the Bash Brothers.
Griffey Upper Deck.
Yeah, Griffey Upper Deck was really big. But, yeah, that whole market just the bottom fell out of it. Because it was, who was the guy for the Mets that was the third baseman that just sucked? That his rookie card was just out of this world.
Like recently?
No, this was like in the...
like
Greg Jeffries?
Greg Jeffries is who it was, yes.
Really? I guess I don't remember that.
I
was out of the game.
You know, there was that news story out there. I think it was probably about a month ago, talking about the guy that he was like, late 90s, passed away, lived in New Jersey, and he was sitting on millions of dollars of mint condition baseball cards.
Wow.
I tweeted the story out, and I'm pretty sure we talked about it. We might have even talked about it here on the podcast, but it was like insane. Yep. Like the guy passed away. Nobody knew anything about it. They go up to this guy's attic, and he had shoe boxes literally full of cards. And I can't remember. There was one particular card, and it's worth like $150,000. And he had 7 of them, and they were all in mint condition.
Yeah, my dad has that horror story of his mom just took all of his cards,
throwing
like Mickey Mantle rookie cards and all that stuff, and just threw it all away.
That is the worst.
I wonder if that's one of those things. I wonder if that's one of those things like, everybody like was at this great game. Like if you count the people that were at the 71 OU Nebraska game, there was like 500,000 people.
Are you calling my dad a liar, you mother?
But I'm gonna say because my dad has had similar conversations. Like I had 37 Mickey Mantle rookie cards. I don't think that's true, but okay, whatever. But I mean, if there were that many Mickey Mantle rookie cards, we literally could have, each one of us could be a millionaire. So I think that's how that goes.
I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but and that's like, Dad, really? Did you have a Mickey Mantle rookie card? Like, did you have a Ty Cobb in there while you're at it? Like,
yeah. I mean, no offense, Mr. Murdoch. I really don't, if you're listening. But
no, he believes that she threw away some really, really valuable. I mean, if someone threw away my entire baseball card collection, I would think, obviously, I had a friend that passed away, and his wife was like, here are his baseball cards. I want you to have it. And it was nothing but random Houston Astros players from the 70s that were worth nothing.
10 different.
I learned I was
Dunston
And I can't, that's one of those things that's still in my closet. I don't want to throw them away and be disrespectful, but they're worthless baseball cards. They were only worth anything to him.
And here's the prize of his collection, the oil can boy.
I was just obsessed with Kenny Lofton. I can't believe how many Kenny Lofton cards that I have.
Oh, wow.
They would be worth something.
See, I've noticed that, too. There are those G.I. Joe people. I've been going on these forums trying to figure out values. Like, there's the collector that wants to get everything that was released, like, in 1983. And then there are the collectors that want to collect every single figure, single person wise, that was made in 1982. Like they have 700 of the same, like Snake Eyes, for instance. That's a G.I. Joe. Like they have They have a shelf full of just those, and I don't understand that personality, but those people do exist.
And that seems like a lot. Seems like a lot.
The 700 of the snake eyes, like, I feel like you might want to talk to somebody. Like you like go see somebody.
Well, I'm exaggerating, but I'm at least 50.
No, but yeah,
you know,
but what more than 5 is okay? Like something
like backup or 2 maybe. If you have 3 of some, like this is my mint, and this is my backup mint, and then this third one's not as good as the first 2, but I have it just in case.
Hey, I can relate to that. The girls' favorite, like, stuffed animals that they sleep with, we have 3 of each. Like, we don't around. Like, we will not lose. If one gets missed, we are going to find it, and we'll have a backup ready to go.
Well, what's the penguin from Friends? Hug, see my good time penguin pal or whatever?
I don't remember that.
Like, when Ross and Rachel have their kid, it wants Joey's penguin, and then Joey gets really jealous, and he tries to go and buy another penguin.
That's right.
And then she doesn't she likes the original penguin. She doesn't like the one that Joey bought, so he gets pissed again.
Josh just took away the plot to Toy Story 3, because if they would have had more lots of bears, then never ever would have happened.
God, look what happened. That poor stuffed animal damn near killed Woody and Buzz. I mean, things, when keeping it real goes wrong.
All right, enough collection talk. Let's get down to now. Have we just minimized what recruiting means now? Isn't recruiting kind of along the same lines? People are just collecting prospects.
I think stockpiling 5 stars is a lot more cooler than stockpiling the 1982 G.I. Joe edition of whatever.
My Larry Zonka card was primo, pal. Thanks.
So anyway, we did have a camp, and it was a good camp run by Also Poe guy over at Mustang, and Bob and Eddie, you went. And Bob, I'll start with you, just kind of your impressions of what you saw. What was this? God, was this Monday, right? Monday evening? Yeah,
Monday night. Really didn't know what to expect going in, but well-organized camp, a lot of fun. And I know, Josh got to see a lot of these same guys when he went on his tour 2-3 weeks back. So it was good to finally get a taste, I think, of that 2023 class. So I think, we go and we'll highlight some of those 2021 and some of those 2022 kids. And I get maybe they're not going to be recruited by OU so people can get turned off. But the 2023 class and that trio that we're just going to keep on talking about, Jacoby Johnson at Mustang, Parker Andrews at Norman North, and Steele Wassel at Choctaw. Good to see them in person, get an idea of why they're so highly touted at this point. And really, when you look at all 3 of them, just knowing they have so much more room to grow. That's what you love to see. And instead of, they're not maxing out as sophomores and then hoping they can stay at that level. These guys are going to be players that will continue to be on the rise and have a lot more to add to their game with each additional year.
Yeah, and I would just add that I had pretty high expectations going in to see what Jacoby Johnson was going to look like, and I think he surpassed those and then some possibly, just with as far as the way that he is built physically and just a high level player, thinking that he's only going into his sophomore season. So it's going to be fun to watch him play here over the next 3 years in Mustang. And then I was kind of excited just to see some of the guys that Josh had seen during the OK Preps tour, as far as the Angelo Rankins kid from Santa Fe. I think he's a very intriguing kid in the 21 class, and as well as Bryce and Donovan Stevens. I thought both of them performed decently well on Monday night. So there's a lot of talent in the state of Oklahoma right now, it feels like, or certainly more so than there has been in recent years. And I don't know, that's not really saying anything bad about the last couple of years, but I think the future is very, very bright.
And Eddie, I know there was a QB you were impressed with besides Steele Wassel, right?
Yeah, Ben Harris, the kid from Carl Albert, I thought played really well on Monday. And, I think it's probably pretty obvious why he's been starting for a school like Carl Albert since he was a freshman. So that kind of put 2 and 2 together when I figured out who he was. Another guy that, I think Bob and Josh have talked about quite a bit, Carson May has a freaking cannon of an arm. I thought that he's going to be somebody that puts up massive, massive numbers, I would imagine, for Jones here over the next 2 years.
Yeah, if we get to see some football, hopefully.
Sure.
And sticking with that 2022 class, my first chance to see Chris McClellan, defensive lineman from Tulsa Edison. That guy passed the eye test. That was someone you've sort of heard about the last year or two because of Savion Morrison. You're like, well, they got this defensive lineman that's really on the same sort of path. Getting to watch him without pads and seeing how big he is, you sort of wonder, how much bigger he can be once he gets into a weight room and things of that nature. And he's definitely not, so there's some guys where you think, okay, they're group of 5 level, they're power 5 level. If McClellan can keep progressing, I don't see any reason why OU wouldn't pursue him, at least initially, to kind of see what type of player he starts to really become in the next year.
Yeah, and the one thing that I would add, and I'm sure that everybody's checked out the videos of the guys that we put up there, whether it be Cade McConnell or Luke McAdoo, Parker Andrews, that offensive line, defensive line group it was fun to watch them, but there's only so much they can do. So the video doesn't really and some of the one-on-one stuff, it was basically like 2 defensive linemen going up against each other. One of them flip it over and play an offensive tackle or offensive line to get reps in. So it's hard to take a whole lot away from what you saw. And, the Chris McClellan actually had a little bit of an eye injury. And so we weren't able to see him go full throttle in the one-on-one stuff. But just seeing him up close and seeing him physically, I think all of those guys are very capable of playing Division I football. It'd be interesting to see where they end up. And, I was particularly excited to see, I think Luke McAdoo, he will be a guy that will be productive at wherever he goes. He's the son of the OSU tight ends, H-backs or Cowboy backs coach up in Stillwater. So, obviously kind of fits the bill of a coach's kid. And I think he'll have a really good career somewhere.
Now, there's more stuff happening in terms of the camp circuit scheduled right now for Sunday in Durant. A camp going on that I know you guys are planning on being a part of. Bob, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yeah, it kind of came out of the blue. I don't know if you knew about it, Josh, and I just found out about it last week when kids started to tweet the pictures out that they were invited to this Under Armour camp, basically like Future 50, however ESPN brands it now, and it's just basically it's a camp that you can go to try to get to the Under Armour game. And with Durant just being like an hour away from Dallas, you expect to have a strong North Texas contingent there to go along with all the kids in the state. So we don't have a finalized roster yet. We're really hoping to have one, by the time Friday, Saturday comes around. But just based on social media, hearing some of the kids that are going to be there, it feels like it'll be a very worthwhile day. And I'll say this, it's going to be a long day. The way they're breaking it up, it's going to start like at 8:30 and it's going to end like past 6 o'clock at night to kind of just give the position times their own little slot, and then you kind of move on to the next, which means you're never going to miss anything. It just makes for a really long day.
Hey, Josh, let me ask you. We've all now seen Jacoby Johnson, just as far as where he is and how young he is. Is it too far to project that not only could he be the number 1 player in that 2023 class, and I'm excited. I hope Pearson's there on Sunday, but like Rivals 100, I mean, would that be disappointing if he wasn't in there? I know it's pretty far off in projecting, but I mean, he just seems different than other guys that we've seen.
Yeah, and Eddie, you're right. I mean, it's so tough to get pinned down that early on or this early on. But I'm with you. I mean, to me, if he's not a 100 guy, I think that is a little disappointing. I think, and not really like in him. It's just not what you had kind of thought he could become. You guys saw him now. I mean, he's 6'2 plus, well put together. He's not a big, stringy kid like you'd kind of think for a basketball player. He's got a big, solid frame. So I don't know, what could really hold him back, short of maybe him saying, I do want to focus on basketball or any of these things. But he is a guy that just has a world of potential.
And just to answer Eddie, Morgan Pearson is one of those kids that has tweeted the picture about him being there on Sunday. 2023 prospect from Plainview, who's just as big in baseball as he is in football. And that's kind of another thing we're starting to see with Jacoby Johnson already has the OU offer in football and basketball. Pearson already has the OU baseball offer. Seeing just that two-sport mentality, it felt like maybe after a while it started to go away. The specialization started to take over. I feel like we're starting to trend more back toward, you know what, it's okay to play 2 or 3 sports, even if you're not going to play all of them when you get to the next level.
Yeah, look at Mario Williams, Nathan Rollins-Kabonga. I mean, there's plenty of guys already, you know, in some of those upper classes that are that way. But you're right, Bob. You do see more of a pattern of it, even of the elite guys, where it's not so specialized.
Well, and even though it might just be a sales pitch, a recruiting point, you can at least point to the fact, hey, we had a football player who was actually drafted in both sports. So at Oklahoma, if you come here, that possibility exists. How many other schools can say and not only drafted but in 2 sports, but drafted in the first round in 2 different sports?
I don't think it's a coincidence. I really don't. I think that is something that they are actively using as a recruiting pitch, and why not? I mean, there's a ton of people that are, and especially the kids that they're recruiting right now, that obviously look up to Kyler Murray and kind of grew up in that moment where he was really starting to, I guess, take hold of the Texas high school football scene. Those kids, the guys that they're recruiting now were certainly kids at that time. So they could even point at a guy like a Cody Thomas that played both sports. It's kind of interesting to see just how well that has gone for them. And it's certainly a pitch that I would expect them to use, on down the line. And I think that it's something that, in a way, Lincoln Riley, Skip Johnson, Long Kruger, whoever, they all are using it and kind of buying into it.
Josh, I'm sorry. Did you have something to add on that?
No. I mean, I started to, and then I've, now since lost.
Then you let Eddie dominate you, and
yeah, Eddie kind of manhandled me there. But no, guys. I mean, I think that's something. Oh, what I was going to say,
not a weekend night. You know what I mean? Up your step up here.
Hey, why would I? I was on a roll last week with some quotables. Why would I not just keep it going this week? But no, I mean, like Mario Williams. Mario Williams is tweeting at baseball commitments, like talking about, there was, I think, a pitcher committed last week, and he's like, yeah, you're going to have a center fielder playing behind you, sweeping stuff up or something, so, I mean, he's not just a guy that, is just football. He's trying to help Skip Johnson and that baseball team as well.
Now, obviously, rivals camps, they're not going, and a lot of that is Verizon foots the bill for that stuff, and they're a huge corporation. They've been very, I would say, I think they've won some awards for social responsibility that they've been paying first responders cell phone bills and stuff like that. So, there's a travel ban, and you saw Amazon announce the other day no non-essential people can't come back to the office till January 8th. And you see the Rose Bowl got canceled already, which Eddie was a big fan of.
That's just insane.
But that's just the thing. Rivals camps are not probably going to come back just because we have a giant corporation that backs us that's very careful, as all corporations are about this kind of stuff. They go as far as anyone in trying to limit exposure, and there's all this stuff. But you do find these camps out there, and I think some people question what's it like, and how are people handling it? And you see OU's videos, and they're, to my amazement, they wear masks all the time. When they're working out, doing stuff, they're always wearing masks. And we talk about the COVID numbers that came out today as well. But I guess my long-winded question is kind of, you can't expect these kids not to want to get out there and compete and do athletic stuff, just like you can't expect kids to stay away from beaches and bars and stuff like that. I guess I'm asking you guys, is there any kind of hesitation out there when you go to these camps and you see people, you talk to them?
I've seen none.
I didn't notice.
I mean,
I really
no,
I
yeah.
really didn't. Steele Wassel was wearing a mask, and I don't know if that affected the way he was throwing or the way he was seeing. But I haven't noticed anything different. I think people want to be socially aware and do the distancing, but then when you get into the heat of the moment and you want to be a competitor and you want to show everyone what you can do, kind of push that to the side. I'm not sure if these kids can really understand how to wear a mask and still be the type of person type of athlete that they want to show. I know I have trouble. We have joked about this before because I wear glasses. When I wear the mask, I start breathing, my glasses fog up. So I mean, that's just, I'm just walking.
And then you're yelling at the Starbucks barista, and I mean, it's just awful.
I'm not trying to do anything athletic. I don't know if they would be able to be the type of competitor that they'd want to be if they had the mask. But I do think, they're trying to. What I noticed Monday night is if they had a chance to be 6 feet away, they definitely were. But it will be curious to see what the format is like on Sunday and how that all goes. But it does feel like it's something you really take seriously until you get to the heat of the moment, and then there's just nothing you can do.
I think going to breaking news. I'm giving you guys breaking news. I know you're not going to believe this. I went to the grocery store on my own. I wore a mask. I was sitting there and it is like what Bob is saying. It's not the most convenient thing in the world. By the time you go down, 80 aisles to get 3 different things, you just want to rip that thing off as soon as you get out in the parking lot. And that's kind of what everybody does. Like when you see people coming out of the grocery store, they're like ripping that thing off as soon as they get outside. And it's not that's why, when I watch those Benny Wiley videos, I'm just like, wow. I mean, that must really suck, but I guess you just get used to it after a while. Because if they can do it, we can do it going to the grocery store.
Yeah. I was thinking like those.
As soon as I'm open air, I've got it off.
What's that, Eddie?
I was just going to say the masks that they're wearing, they have to be like different than the one I have. The one that I have is shit. I need to get one of the ones that OU has. Those things have to be comfortable for them to be wearing them while they're working out.
Yeah, I have the
surgical. And passing none of it around.
I have the surgical crappy ones from China. They're not the best.
Yeah, I guess we probably should add that the latest numbers came out from Norman this morning before the recording of the podcast, and second straight week they've reported no new cases, and not only do they have no new cases, but they have no active cases within the program. For everything that's going on in this state right now, that's pretty damn amazing.
Yeah, and what speaks to those numbers even more, the 98 football players and 30 staff members. So it's not like they're rationing it, where it's only 30 to 40 players and it's not a big enough sample. I mean, they are basically doing the entire team every single week, and now for back-to-back weeks they have 0 new cases. Whatever Lincoln Riley has been preaching, because if you remember when we talked to him a couple weeks ago, to be arrogant to say we can control these kids when they're outside of the facility, but whatever they're doing, whatever they're preaching, it's certainly working.
Well, and I think who knows how often those kids get outside their bubble of just, players that they practice with every day. You got to think it's some, though. I mean, it's like you saw, was it Creed Humphrey and Adrian Ely went to Lane Johnson's offensive line summit or whatever, but they took strong, CDC precautions at that deal. But I mean, they obviously traveled to go to that. I mean, it's not like you can't live your life. I mean, you can. It's just being cautious, and some of it's being lucky. I mean, just, not happening to be around that person that maybe they don't know has it.
Yeah. I think Josh would agree with this, that I'd be the first person to say that I think, at times we've been maybe a little bit overly dramatic here, especially as of late. But at the same time, this is kind of the new normal. Like, you talk about new normals, you just kind of got to get used to it and suck it up a little bit, and particularly here over the next couple months if we want to have any type of football. come the fall.
Oh, I'm with you. I mean, and guys, I'll be the first to admit it took me a while before I started wearing a mask. Like, I'm not saying like, I would say probably for about 3 weeks now when I go out, I've got a mask on. But like before that, I wasn't wearing a mask. Like,
yeah, because your wife told you the hospital was filling up, so you're like, shit, I guess I better wear a mask.
Well, that's just like, I'm so anti-alarmist that like even when probably alarms should be going off, I'm like, it's fine.
Oh,
like I'm literally that.
Of anyone that
I'm
was
that dog
out
in the burning building.
Of anyone that was out there actively getting us canceled when this thing started, it was you.
For sure. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I still hear about it frequently. But no, I mean, and then that's fine. That's deserved. I'll totally own it. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just the thing I can't get my head around are these people that like are getting mad at store clerk, like at the greeter lady at Walmart. Like, she didn't make this call, guy. Like, just like help her out, and all you're gonna do is just end up looking like an asshole in front of everybody. Stop doing it. Like, just I don't understand. And I like for a while, like I could get it because masks were so hard to come by and people couldn't find them. I mean, the hospitals were having trouble, supplying just basic surgical masks, much less good N95 type deals. But now you can get a mask. I walked into Hallmark and bought 2 for myself for each car and then a couple for the girls. Like, you can buy a mask almost anywhere you want to.
Well, and, something else that came out in terms of good news, Eddie, the Good News Network, the NCAA and the Power 5 conferences announced that they had come to an agreement on testing standards, which basically says if they have a season, everyone will get tested on Wednesdays, so they'll have the results available for that game. Now, it doesn't solve all the problems. I'm not here saying it does, but after watching what happened with the Big Ten just go out rogue and do what they wanted to do, that question was out there, like, why can't these idiots just get together and make some decisions that benefit everybody? And I don't know if that was the wake-up call, but at least we've seen that. I mean, at least we've seen schools work together and say, yes, these are protocols that we all need to adhere to.
Well, I think after the Big Ten news came out last week, it was a situation of, and I think you've seen it here over the last week or week and a half, I guess, that ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC kind of looked at each other like, almost kind of like, F them. We need to stick together and figure this thing out, or we're all going to be really f***ed. So I guess in a way that, like, and again, I can't believe that I find myself saying this, but once again, kudos to Bob Bowlesby for not caving. I feel like his leadership over the last, really 6 to 8 months has been pretty strong, which I'll be the first one to say that I've been about as vocal and critical of Bob Bowlesby as anybody, including saying some nasty things about him. But like, I feel like he's done a pretty damn good job, all things considered. And I guess in a way that probably just reinforces the fact of how important it is of playing a football season.
Well, and it's interesting too, because Bob Bowlesby and Lincoln Riley are kind of on opposite ends of an issue, which is playing in the spring. Bob Bowlesby has not wanted to really address moving the season to the spring, where Lincoln is like, look, we could do it in the spring if we have to do it in the spring. And I think Bruce Feldman had an article detailing kind of some of what Lincoln Riley has been throwing toward the conference about his ideas on how you get it done by playing in the spring. So I think Bob Bowlesby, yes, he deserves a lot of credit for kind of sticking to his guns. And I've just been impressed with OU, the Big 12, that they are willing to just wait and not make rash decisions like canceling a parade in July or January. Like, that's a rash decision. So, I can't fault anyone around here for doing anything wrong in terms of kind of just navigating this whole thing.
Guys, has COVID been Bob Bowlesby's shining moment? Like, I feel like he's navigated this as well as he's navigated literally anything.
It probably just shows you why he, was an AD in the first place, why he was at Stanford, why they hired him to be the Big 12, commissioner. He's just, as an administrator, he's pretty good at what he does. As a radio host, he's terrible. I would not want to listen to his radio show.
Does he have a radio show?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, I was going to say.
He's not an electric speaker is all I'm getting at.
Eddie was about to be furious that he hasn't been listening for years.
Yeah, I'd be his number one fan. I'd be a caller. I'd call in every day. He's been strong though, and I do think that it's kind of funny over the last month. I think Gabe DeArmond pointed this out on Twitter this morning. For the last month and a half, the next 2 weeks are the most important 2 weeks of in the history of the college football season. And now we're kind of at a point where it's like, oh shit, you really better get it buckled down here over the next 14, 15 days, or we are looking at the season starting. And, guys, I think that, to be completely honest with all of you, I would think that at some point here in the next month or so, we'll hear that, the season's been pushed back at least.
By the way, I just ran across an article, biggest baseball card busts. Like cards that skyrocketed in value that just the bottom dropped out.
Okay. Would
you like some of the names?
Guys,
I know this is a squirrel moment. I'm sorry. JD Drew.
Oh, that's a good one.
At least he's hit 4 home runs in a game before.
Here's one
that's his biggest claim to fame, right?
I believe that's true. Yes. This is one Eddie will love. Rick Ankiel.
Oh man, one of my favorite Cardinals of all time.
It's not just baseball cards. Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I can see how that one.
I feel like his card should still have value. Like there should be like. He's such an interesting story. Like, it shocks me that his cards don't have value.
Adam Morrison.
Oh yeah,
that's just a
say
sports.
What you want about Adam Morrison? I think the guy has 3 rings.
Yes, he's got on the bench.
He's got a mustache. Doesn't really have a role. And like comes from the Pacific Northwest. Has he started murdering people yet, or are we still waiting on that?
Oh God, that's too soon.
He's a killer.
Considering we just had an Oklahoman executed for murdering people in Oregon.
I didn't know about that. That fits perfectly into my master plan.
So
he was a white supremacist. I think we should do that with all of them.
This is the very definition of pitching bust from the college and the high school level. Would you guys like to take a guess at these two people?
Okay, say the parameters again. High school?
The biggest 2 busts on the professional level from both the college and high school level. It's 2 different people.
Okay.
One's from college. Yes, Ben McDonald. You got that right off. And then high school.
Van Poppel?
Todd, you got them both.
Bam.
Man, Josh, that's impressive.
I've bought a lot of cards in my time.
And that's in your wheelhouse, 91.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ben McDonald was a big deal. Like that one I was pretty confident. Van Poppel was a little bit of a guess.
Man, Ben McDonald was such a dominating pitcher at LSU. Here's the last one I'll throw out there.
Okay.
Former number 1 draft pick of the New York Yankees. Another pitcher.
Oh, Brian Taylor.
Brian Taylor. You got it.
Brian Taylor. Okay, I'm out.
Are you out of the pod? I think Pearl was crying. She lost it, so I think Bob's out.
She's not a Brian Taylor fan. She got jobbed on that card too, so she believed the hype.
But no, I will back to kind of the season and preparations. I mean, obviously, OU is now. You could tell because as soon as OU got into required physical activities, like Benny Wiley started posting stuff on Instagram again. I guess like compliance said that, no, it's voluntary. You can't because that means you can monitor or the other coaches can monitor what they're doing. So he had to stop. But like just watching kind of the daily stuff that they're going through, I'm sorry, but I tweeted about this. I'm man-crushing hard on Brayden Willis. If they play a season, I think Brayden Willis becomes the next big thing, like even bigger than Dimitri Flowers to this offense.
He is a physical specimen when you just look at what he's able to do physically.
And he's bigger now. Like, he is trained hard. You can tell.
Well, and that's what was kind of a... Go ahead, Eddie.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just going to say, I mean, everybody talks about Austin Stogner. I think that Brayden Willis sometimes, and rightfully so about Stogner, I think he's going to be a great player. But, both of those guys at that H-back position are such unique players in that they're really not the guy that Dimitri was.
No. And Dimitri, he was a guy that almost Lincoln used deception. People just didn't pay attention to him. And he had so many big plays out of that. And I think Brayden Willis has kind of been that way, but Austin Stogner gets in the game. You know he's in the game. I mean, he's massive.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, I almost think Flower, like you were talking about how impressive Willis is and being like he could be an even bigger guy than maybe Flowers was for the offense. I think Flowers and the way he was put together almost played into you can overlook this guy because he's not a guy that you would look at and be like, holy cow, like this guy is just a specimen. Like he was, I don't want to, like, doughy is absolutely not the right word, but he wasn't like that. No, I mean, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like he doesn't, like he's not a guy that walks in a room and like you're like, holy cow, that's just a different animal right there. Like
but then when they throw him that pass at Ohio State, and he outruns their entire secondary to the end zone, you're just like, holy shit, that guy's
no. Like you guys know, like I love Dimitri Flowers. Like I thought he was maybe the biggest loss from year 1 to year 2 on that offense when he graduated. Like he was a huge piece of what they did. But like I said, just looking at him, like he's not like the old expression. He's not the off the bus guy. Like he's not the guy you're going to line up and run him out. Brayden Willis, like you want him. Yeah, you want Brayden Willis, the first guy off the bus. Look at him. Look how scary that dude is. He's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, with what Lincoln has done with that position, and let's face it, I mean, I think we'll see Brayden Willis more as a split out tight end too this year instead of an inline blocker, fullback type guy. Because I mean, he's big. I mean, he runs really well. I can't imagine what Lincoln will do with him. I'm always so torn about these football conversations because I'm always like, are we wasting our time having discussions about what's going to happen on the field this year? But
absolutely not.
We've got to at some point.
I feel like it's therapeutic in a way. I'm sick of talking about anything else. The thing, and that's kind of what has been interesting just as far as like the wide receiver position. And when you talk about, losing a guy like CeeDee Lamb, I think that people often, and I don't want to say forget, because I think that, all of us realize it. Anybody that really covers the team, the guys that do the depth charts and stuff will know that, like, they have two very able bodies in Austin Stogner and Brayden Willis. It's going to be kind of fun to see how Lincoln Riley incorporates them. And the same thought of talking about, the videos that Benny Wiley's put out, it seems that Theo Howard looks pretty damn good right now, the way that he's moving around. I think that, there's a realistic expectation that he should be ready when a season begins.
Well, and the other thing I noticed from the latest round of videos is, you were always concerned about how does this affect, the pandemic and stuff, and everybody being, like, all the coaches and trainers, basically have to scatter and stay at home and quarantine and all that stuff. Like, how did that affect a guy like Trey Norwood, who was still coming back from injury? And it was kind of nice to see him, even though it looked like he had a exoskeleton on one of his legs, he was still jumping up and down on just that leg, cutting and doing stuff. So it looks like he's continued to make a lot of progress and looks like a guy that you mentioned, Theo Howard, but it was really good to see Trey Norwood out there running around at full speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that when you look at what Oklahoma's doing, and, I certainly don't think that, because the situation with Justin Harrington, you need I guess what I'm trying to say is you need as many bodies as possible that are available in that secondary. And, I think that everybody knows that is something that Alex Grinch griped about last year, was the depth in the secondary, and adding Trey Norwood, a guy that he obviously talked time and time again about Carey. Him. He's somebody that they need back there and will definitely rely on once the season begins.
Like Alex Grinch is never really an emotional guy about anything. He's just kind of deadpan the entire time. When Trey Norwood blew out his knee, that's the most emotional, even to this day, that he's ever been, even after tough losses. Like, it just killed him that Trey Norwood got hurt.
And that was on the first day of practice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like that was like his welcoming to Oklahoma. It was, now I'm out of my best player in the secondary.
Yeah, and I mean, it just kind of goes to show you what happened in the LSU game. You know how little depth that they had. Sure. So yeah, I mean, I would expect him fully to come back in and be the starting nickel, as long as he's fully healthy, and and that gives you Pat Fields and Delarian Turner-Yell returning as starters. So you just have to kind of find one corner, which you kind of do in Jaden Davis, but it does leave Buki kind of as the odd man out. But I still really want to see Woody Washington develop, and I think we saw some good things out of him, and I think he's a guy that can continue to push and push for a starting position as the season goes along.
Josh, what do you make of the Justin Harrington situation?
Well, and I've actually talked to Justin since we've been doing the pod here. He messaged me. He's still just waiting to hear anything. He's told me his transcripts are in. I assume it's going through Oklahoma, going through the clearinghouse, all that stuff. Now, from everything I've gathered, Oklahoma can do this stuff in very short order. It sounds like if there's a holdup, it's the clearinghouse. And that shouldn't be that surprising. I mean, this is a guy that was initially earmarked to enroll back in January, and clearly there were problems there. So usually when you see this, it's a pattern. When there's one problem, more problems tend to pop up. It doesn't ever seem to end easily, and that's kind of where we're at. It's an interesting thing because I have no hard facts about the situation, but just covering recruiting for 20 years, this almost always ends badly. Like, it almost always, they just couldn't get it right. They couldn't, you go back to, Chioke eventually got to campus, but there were all these problems. I almost want to say he missed a season just dealing with that crap. And there's so many other guys. We can go down year after year, guys that were Smoke Patterson, you go just years of junior college players struggling to get their credits right, to get, enrolled in school. And now, you're looking at with Justin Harrington, this was a guy that everybody thought might push really Patrick Fields. That was kind of the idea, is he could come in and really compete for that spot. Well, I don't know how he does that with almost no summer workouts, and, you don't know what he's been doing back home. So we'll see what happens, but it's just one of those things where I think if he gets on campus now, you're just kind of hoping he can get his feet wet and catch up by mid-season.
When somebody says that it's a clearinghouse issue, I think it's a common slogan in college football. Could somebody just explain it to me like a second grader, what exactly that means?
It means that, they send the transcripts, and a lot of times this comes into, I remember with Willa too, it was like a math thing, wasn't it, Josh? Like, did he have the right math credits, the classes that he took? Did they transfer to satisfy this requirement to make him, a junior in eligibility or whatever? Like, was he on progress toward his degree to where he was eligible? And so the clearinghouse looks at all kinds of things, but mainly they're looking at the classes he took. How does that translate to a major college? And, what type of class they really were at his junior college. For instance, I remember being in junior college, and accounting 1 was over 2 different semesters. Whereas if you went to a regular 4-year school, it would just be a semester. So I think they kind of sometimes break up math classes like that too. And it just gets really confusing with what transfers over and how many credits you get credit for. And so that's kind of just what the clearinghouse does. They just kind of make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Yeah, they're going to check everything that basically it's the NCAA. We don't fully trust everything the school is going to say, so they're kind of the watchdog, as I understand it.
I feel like in 2020 we need to move on to something else. I feel like that is a very archaic way of operating, but considering who we're talking about, I guess that's not too surprising.
Well, I saw there's a push to abolish the ACT and the SATs right now.
I saw that, and you know what? As crazy as it sounds, I could see that becoming a reality in 5 years. Within like 5 years or something.
Sure. It's one of those situations. I don't think anybody, whether it was biased for them, toward them, nobody likes that test. But you've got to have some sort of replacement for it. I don't know. Then I haven't read the release. There may have been, we think it should move in this direction or whatever the case is. But you have to have some ability for a university to measure your aptitude.
Yeah, there has to be some standard in place.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't finish last in your class and then just skate on into college.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I feel like Orange County when Sean Brumder gets into Stanford.
That is a truly unappreciated movie.
Yeah, that's a really.
I think that's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. That probably tells me more about me than anything else.
Oh God, we should almost do a separate pod where Eddie talks about his 5 favorite movies.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting because the problem with that is, Edward, is that you don't have a lot of movie experience.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why it'd be a very. I can assure you this: my top 5 movies of all time are movies that are so mainstream that it would almost probably be too embarrassing for me to even talk.
Well,
except for Orange County is your off the grid pick. Then is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
It's like a list of 5 movies that are in literally no one else's top 5. Because anybody that wants to put together a movie top 5 list, they've seen a shitload of movies.
We don't even know if you know what a mainstream movie is.
Yeah, I was gonna I don't know. Wedding Crashers is probably in there.
Okay, that's mainstream.
I was gonna guess Hangover, but that one. That's
like Hangover.
Pretty much the same.
I don't know if I would put it in the great category though.
Anchorman.
Anchorman
is top 5.
Awesome movie. What?
Anchorman's a top 5.
Probably top 25.
Okay.
I gotta say,
my list.
Are you pretty much strictly a comedy guy, Eddie? Just there's not much action, or I'm certainly betting there's very little drama or rom-com in your life. But are you pretty much exclusively, if you're going to sit down and watch a movie?
What if Les Miserables is in there or something?
That'd be amazing.
That would be on my Broadway list.
Hugh Jackman is a joy. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think it's good that everybody is kind of not making decisions yet. It's not good what's going on with numbers. And look, I understand this. I posted the thread the other day about the Army stuff. We talked about that I don't know if we talked about that on the pod a little bit last week or not. Just that they're kind of taking the same approach that OU is. They're not, panicking, trying to get out of things. They've got their own health czars from the military world, and I think Navy and Air Force are doing the same things. But they're definitely waiting as long as they can before they make any decisions. So there shouldn't be any panic about whether that game is going to be played. I think if OU plays Missouri State, they're going to play Army. That's the way I think this thing will work out. Now, I think it was Barry Trammell that had the first one to put it out there that OU was trying to move their Missouri State game to August 29th, which is an excellent idea. And I don't know why the NCAA wouldn't approve that waiver, just because you should be doing anything and everything you can for your member institutions to help them out right now.
Well, it's kind of been funny that, as bad as things have gone here in Oklahoma and Texas and, and throughout the region and the hot spots of the country, that, that flipped rather quickly. It can also flip back the other way rather quickly. And that's why, like, making these broad and bold decisions, and even the Houston ISD kind of gave themselves an out that if things get better, of course we're going to be playing football. So it will be interesting to see. And just kind of a side note, the American Athletic Conference just released some numbers as far as testing 72 hours prior to completion. Our buddy Caden McFarland up in Tulsa said that would cost roughly between $70,000 and $85,000 for a school like Tulsa to get that done in the AAC. Obviously, that's not going to be a problem money-wise at OU or OSU or Texas or wherever like that, but it is always kind of good to kind of get a good idea of what we're actually talking about numbers-wise.
Well, it almost, I mean, it makes you think of what kind of reform is going to happen after this is over. Like, you know,
Sure.
you have all these schools that make all these deals with equipment apparel companies, and it's usually, you know, they announce, oh, it's a $3 million deal or whatever, and all that money is just free gear that they get from the company. Like, are we going to have to go to where, you know, schools are actually getting money now instead for this stuff? Because maybe some years they're going to have to scale back and say, we only want 2 uniforms, and we're going to use that money elsewhere.
Oh, God forbid the college football team doesn't have 10 different combinations of uniforms.
Maybe that's something we should cut out.
In a way, and I know that this sounds like, well, it's kind of hateful, and I have a little bit of a black heart, so I don't really care. But, like, all these schools that are cutting things, in a way, shouldn't this have been happening a long time ago? Like I know that yesterday the big story was like Akron's cutting half of their faculty. That's kind of an Akron problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a university deal, yeah.
Like, maybe they should have thought about that a long time ago when they started spending money and I don't know their budget, but like that seems more of a problem that is centered around Akron and the way that they've f***ed up their income and their budget more than it is anything else.
I think that goes hand in hand though with the mission of a college or the operation of a college, which is they've never operated on a cash in, cash out basis. They've operated on, you know, the donations of people to allow them to do the things they want to do. Like
sure.
It's, I don't want to make it like a handout, but it is. I mean, you're sticking your hands out saying, hey, give us some money, support us so we can do these things. It happens in football. It happens at university levels. Help us build this building because we need to open up a new liberal arts school that will, you know, shine across the Midwest or whatever. Like, they're just used to fundraising. And in a pandemic, there's not as many funds to go around. You're not getting as much donations from people.
Yeah, and I guess in a way, and I don't know, maybe I've just completely looked at it through a jaded perspective, but like everything that is happening, whether it be Stanford cutting bullshit varsity athletics or Akron cutting their faculty, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, when times are tough, bad things are going to happen. I guess in a way, I just haven't really been surprised by a whole lot. And I know it's going to get worse if we can't play sports and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. It's kind of been like a well done moment.
I would just like to take this moment to say that we appreciate all our subscribers who continue to subscribe to us, even though there are no sports going on. As someone
100%.
As someone who just kind of shit on people who have their hands out.
Well, I mean, I think it's different.
If you're a freeloader,
if you're sitting on an endowment of $70 billion, but can't use that money for something else, like the endowment for those Ivy League schools is absolutely insane. That you can't just, and this is just my completely lack of understanding economics and everything to run a university, but I don't understand why if you're sitting on $1 billion of endowment, why you can't just kind of dip your fund in there. We're going through a fucking global pandemic. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Between Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, they have $100 billion in endowment.
Yeah, that's insane. If we have a few grand in the bank, we're happy.
Yeah. I mean, OU and OSU's endowments are huge for that matter. They're not the billions of dollars like
I think some
Harvard
of that has
and
to
Yale,
do
but,
with like, just securing good professors and tenures and stuff like that. I mean,
sure.
It's just part of what they do. But yeah, it is. Everybody has a rainy day fund. It's just those rainy day funds can't overcome $100 million losses. I mean,
and the other bottom line too, and I'm sure that the academia world would say the same thing about coaches, but maybe don't pay professors $250,000 or whatever they're making.
Well, then they'll
no
go
singular
to...
professor is bringing in that much money.
No, they aren't. I'm just guessing. I have no idea.
No. I mean, Eddie, whether it's the guy, at Harvard or the guy at Oklahoma State, there's not that much gap between where they should be paid, because if you put the guy at Oklahoma State and Harvard, everybody's going to think he's great too.
But I would assume those high-paid professors are people that, have taught a lot of students, and some of them have gone on to do well.
Sure.
And they bring in money from their, former students in appreciation for what they did. So, I mean, it's kind of like Sherry.
Point.
It's kind of like
fair.
Sherry Coe. It's like, yeah, she's not worth $1 million, but from a PR side, I don't know if she's helping anymore. But at one point, she was worth $1 million to them because of, boosters and fundraising and all that stuff.
Well, they do manage to put her on literally every pay-per-view broadcast that they ever do.
Well, she was, once lovable.
And a sign of
when
maturity.
She was winning.
As a sign of maturity, I will not say anything hateful or porous about Sherry Coe right now.
If you were not going to be hateful, though, what were you going to say?
Josh, why do you do this?
I will DM you what I would.
That is some growth. That actually just shows you that Eddie knows he works for an OU affiliate now. I think more than anything.
Oh no, Eddie sold that to the man. Is that what I'm hearing here?
It's Big Radio.
Big Radio got him.
He is typing it up, I think, as we speak.
He's He's making sure we hear it. He's typing angry.
I was, it's just an observation. It's nothing big.
Okay, so moving forward, I know, we kind of set the stage, Josh, about, recruiting in the future. We have, what do we call them, O's to talk about now that are out there?
Yeah, that is. I mean, what do we call it? Is it just an O? Because it's like the red O. It's very specific. We got to come up with a name for it that sounds, less shitty. But no, yeah. Earlier this week, Lincoln had one out. Roy Manning had one out. I think it's pretty clear, just talking to some people, this is kind of replacing the I's. We were a little unsure. Bob and I had talked about it on the pod, not really sure if that meant, okay, we've added another piece, or after a commitment had already gone public, or if this was more of a situation kind of like we used to see with the I's. From what I can gather, it sounds like this is becoming a looking forward kind of thing. So, I continue to hear. I mean, I can tell you 4 or 5 players that it feels like if they announced while we were doing this podcast, it wouldn't be a huge surprise. I think Oklahoma's in a good spot with several players. It's just a matter of guys starting to make that jump. And I kind of thought it would happen after the Caleb Williams situation. Jalil Farouk is one of the obvious ones, wide receiver, buddy of Caleb's from the D.C. area, and it just hasn't happened so far. So I'm not sure what to make of that. I don't get the impression that it's, I've had some people ask me, well, is OU going in a different direction, or have they lost hope there? I don't get that at all. I think it's just I think he may have some people around him that want him to kind of wait it out and see if visits are going to be possible, and then go forward from there. Kind of like we were just talking about, not making a rash choice, not doing something just because it's not available to you now. And I think he's just waiting it out and kind of seeing what will happen. But I still think Oklahoma is a clear leader for him. You look at guys like Marcus Burris. Probably the big news we have to talk about is Kendal Daniels saying today he was going to announce on August 1st which would be the same day that DeMond Harmon, the defensive back offer from Virginia, is expected to announce. So there are a lot of things that you would think are going to go positively for Oklahoma in the next few weeks. Now, Kendal Daniels has kind of made things interesting. There's rumors that he went to College Station last week. He had tweeted something out kind of alluding to as much, but with the way you can play with where you are on Twitter, I'm still trying to find out if that was real or if that was him just kind of messing with everybody. But he's since now taken the tweet down, which would kind of make you think something. I don't even know what to make of that. It makes you think
that A&M is secretly bringing in recruits.
That's it. Like, there are several schools that are bringing in multiple guys. Like, I know Amarius Mims, the big 5-star offensive tackle that had OU in his top 6 yesterday, was either supposed to or did go down to Florida State. What? That just rings funny to me. Like, why would you go
very
do
funny.
that? Yeah,
I mean it's basically a school would have to say to a kid, "Hey, we can't have you here, but if you want to show up." I mean,
well, and it feels like the old high school, like, oh, we might bump into you over here at the local bar or restaurant or whatever.
It's ridiculous. It's bizarre. I mean, it's a dead period. You're not supposed to have any in-person contact.
Yep.
And so, you can't, skirt the rules by saying, well, if you just happen to show up at our facility, who are we to say you can't come in? Like, no, you can't do that.
Yep.
That is truly amazing if that is what is happening.
And I want to be clear. There's no proof or evidence that that's what's happening. It's just strange for kids to just go to a college campus and not be in the presence of the people they've been talking to for the last year and a half of their life. Like it stretches reality a little bit.
I believe we are joined by Bob Prisbillo, who has gotten his baby under control.
Now, would it be possible that current players could show that kid around? If they
I think it would be, yeah.
Associated with the coaches?
I think it would be, yeah.
Wouldn't it have to be? Wouldn't it have to be a player they had a prior relationship with?
But you're still allowing someone to come into your facility that has been locked down and is supposed to be, Rona free. I mean, that's dangerous for your program if you're really it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a move. If that's literally what's happening, that's one of those things where you're like, okay, if the season gets canceled in a month, you're like, you guys did this to yourselves. You were doing stupid shit like this.
Yeah, Josh.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, Josh, I know we're starting to see a lot of August 1st dates being thrown around. You think recruits are starting to finally accept that maybe they're not going to get the visits that they might have thought they would have, 2-3 months ago?
I think it's possible because, you're hearing guys, and I've mentioned several times over the last, probably 3-4 weeks, Savion Byrd is a guy that I feel like Oklahoma leads for. And really, I think if he knew he couldn't take official visits, I think he might have already pulled the trigger. But as it is, he is, he's holding out hope that he can take some trips. And, Bob, you were doing baby stuff, but I was talking about how that's kind of,
you weren't here.
Yeah, you weren't here, Bob. Was kind of interesting to see that you're seeing kids kind of starting to face this reality. And just like we were talking earlier with rash decisions, they don't want to do anything too immediate. But it's getting to the point now where the guys who were like, I don't want to worry about this during my season, I want to have this decision made, are kind of saying, you know what, I'm just going to have to make this choice. I've got to, because it's an interesting position because I think kids are probably more familiar and have a better relationship with these coaches than in most years. They just haven't been able to go see things for themselves. And I think that's where it's an interesting balance because you probably know your position coach, your head coach, your coordinator. You're more familiar with those guys than probably any guy in years because the coaches have so much more time to dedicate to you. But at the same time, you're not getting any in-person contact. They haven't come to see you. And from the coaching side of it, you're not getting to go evaluate these guys.
Yeah.
They're a guy that I've talked a lot about on the board lately is a kid named Caleb Holloway from Fort Worth South Hills that I know Oklahoma has some interest in, but to my understanding, OU's never seen him in person. Well, how far do you go down the road of offering a kid that you haven't seen, that you don't know any other coaches that have seen? I mean, he's kind of at an obscure high school. So you're having to go off of what other people are telling you. How big is he? What's he run? You don't have those hard facts for yourself.
Well, and you're running into that danger here. If high school seasons aren't played, the only kid, like, you're only going to know about, like Raleigh Browns. Like, okay, that guy's a no-brainer. Like,
yep.
But there's only so many of those guys in the country, and there's a lot of guys that are really good players that you can find but you can't find them if you can't get out there and evaluate. So at some point, this is really going to hurt rosters across the country, because the only people that are going to get recruited are the elite of the elite that have been proven it, since they're sophomores, and not that guy that really blossomed as a junior and then dominated as a senior.
Oh, I think I think it's an amazing point, Carey. And I think in 3 or 4 years, you are going to see a noticeable difference of some random guys popping up from small schools. We always get a few, but I think you're going to see more than ever, especially with what's just happened in the junior college ranks, with them not having a season. You get so many of those guys that go overlooked, and then they kind of sneak into, Kansas State or somewhere middle range like that this year they're going to end up at very different types of schools, because schools are going to have to go with guys that they know. It's just like what we were talking about way back during the draft, that Oklahoma's guys had some advantages because the scouts had a chance to see them, watch them go through their medicals. They had a lot of boxes checked that most other schools' players didn't have. Oklahoma is just like everybody else. They're going to err on the side of the information they actually have, and they might end up not taking a guy that maybe they like better on tape, but they just can't make that risk. We can't take you because we don't know anything about you.
Bob,
you bring up the junior college thing. That was one thing I did want to make sure to bring up was Isaiah Coe. Had a chance to talk with him Tuesday, a day after the announcement was made that junior college seasons will be pushed to the spring. They'll be allowed to work out from August to October. And you talk with him, his first thought is, obviously he's crushed. He can't play with his teammates, the guys that he's built a bond with during the last, 6-9 months. But then he starts talking about the fact that because of this, and because he's going to be a mid-year guy anyway for OU, he's going to get a year of eligibility back, according to the OU coaches and his junior college coaches that he's been talking with, because he can, quote-unquote, redshirt now when nothing's going on. Now he becomes a 3-for-3 guy. Josh, does that change anything in terms of his standing? Like, does OU maybe feel more confident now because they get that extra year? And would that make any impact at all in terms of Kelvin Gilliam, Marcus Burris, and those kind of numbers?
I think it does, and I think it's tremendously interesting. And, that also gets into the conversation of if junior college guys were to enroll early, how do you count that season even against them? What are we talking about redshirting or anything like that? That's just like a free year. So I think that's all really intriguing to see how that plays out. But I think it absolutely, in Isaiah Coe's case, that helps, because I talked about it on the pod, on the board. To me, that was one of the big hangups, was that Oklahoma really was going to be kind of top-heavy at defensive tackle with Winfrey and Ellison last year, and then you add Coe into the mix. Well, how many young defensive linemen are you adding to that group? Well, you're pushing him back. I mean, now he arrives as a sophomore. I mean, so that really changes your whole storyline. Now, obviously, you still, you had the redshirt year available if he was going to go that route, or if he is forced to use it this year, whatever. But I mean, he's either a 4 to play 3 guy or a 3 to play 3 guy, kind of like I said, depending on how they look at if a guy were to come in at semester and didn't take part in any football season. I don't know how that counts against him, but we'll have to see how they choose to, dictate that. yeah, I think it absolutely strengthens his case with Oklahoma because he is just now for lack of a better way to say it, he's a younger player on their scholarship chart.
I also wonder, though, if the college football season gets pushed back to spring, if the NCAA doesn't revisit that and say, well, there's no mid-semester transfers this year. I mean, isn't that a possibility?
Yeah, well, for sure.
It begs the question of how would you, could Isaiah Coe come at semester but not actually take part in that season?
But would he get that extra year, though, is what I'm saying.
That's what, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's the thorny stuff that you don't really think about. And again, man, the spring season, I know everybody thinks that is just like an answer. I don't know how you then turn around and have a season in the fall. I don't know how that works. Now, I know, our buddy Dan Wolken is very excited about the idea of spring football just becoming a thing. But as we all recall, it's fairly damn hot in Oklahoma in May.
You had to bring up Dan Wolken.
I think the idea of a spring season, while I understand it, is it should be an option. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. But if you have 50 options, I think a spring season should be 51.
There's part of me that would almost rather see the season punted than play spring because I don't know how you get back on track for a regular fall season.
Well, you don't play a full season. You just it's like an exhibition season.
Yeah, if you want to have like a 5-game spring exhibition season, I would rather see that than them punt the season, obviously. But it's kind of what the NBA ran into as far as are you saving a season and then f***ing over 2 more seasons in the process?
Yep.
The thing I would go back to is something like Creed Humphrey. Would he have to go to the NFL Combine and just skip the season then? I mean, he'd have to.
Well, that's why I think it has to
choice,
be
right?
It has to be more of an exhibition season because everybody's going to lose. I mean, you'll lose Trevor Lawrence, you could lose Justin Fields. I mean, it'll be essentially for a lot of teams, it'll just be a rebuild, in a short period of time.
In a way, I think it would be irresponsible of a coach to tell a player he should be playing in it if you're going to be drafted in April. You know what I mean? I don't think that Lincoln Riley would tell Creed Humphrey he needs to be a part of that. I think that he would tell him,
no,
take care of yourself, get ready for the draft. It is what it is. This sucks, but
if you can get to a spring with a hint of a vaccine, which we'll know more at the end of the month, how realistic that is, and then you can put fans in the stands and you can play 6 games with full fans versus 12 games with no fans. Maybe that's, you just need a year to stem the tide and you don't have a college football playoff. I mean, hell, there's part of me that feels like they shouldn't have a college football playoff this year just because it's going to be a whacked out season of football. What, like a tournament?
Yeah, have an 8 or 10 team playoff this year if you're going to have a shortened season. I think a shortened season in the fall should lead to an expanded playoff.
Yeah, but that doesn't solve the problems of contracts and guarantees and all that, and pay-per-view for OU. They've got the problem is all these teams have their models set up. It's hard to kind of pivot from that unless and the Power 5 is not going to give playoff money to the Group of 5 to help them out. The Group of 5 would rather just get their paydays by playing Texas and OU and USC. And
I know for a fact that I think Kersey talked to the Missouri State AD maybe on Tuesday of this week. Maybe it was Monday. I forget when it was, but I mean, they are hell-bent on playing that game, no matter what.
Yeah, they need that $600K.
Oh, no that's how they keep the lights on, man.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Well, and if they're hell-bent, that means they're spending a lot of money right now on testing. So that's just like with all those schools with the Big Ten. They just had the rug pulled out from under them when they'd committed to probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in cleaning and testing and all that stuff.
Sure.
For nothing, basically. All right. Any other business you guys want to get to before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I am. This is perfect timing. Tiger's about to tee off at the Memorial, so I am all good. But I would say, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confident that they're going to play some fall football. I just don't know what the form's going to be. At some point, I guess I kind of believe in a way that things are going to get better. It's not always going to be bad. So this is positive, Eddie. You should put this in a capsule. It'll probably never happen again.
Well, it's been 2 straight weeks of no positive cases for Oklahoma, so that's good around here. I'll just wait and see if anybody else has to shut down their workouts here in the next month. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is what we said all along, and I feel like I keep saying this, but let's wait and find out what happens when they get out there on a practice field with pads and see if it spreads then, because then we're all doomed if it does.
Miami did shut down their operations while we've been recording. Kind of weird, though. They only had 3 positive tests. I don't know if that has to do more so with the city of Houston.
But you said Miami.
That they've seen. Is
Miami
that what it
or
is?
Houston? You're confusing me. You said Miami shut down their workouts, and then you said the city of Houston.
No, I meant the city of Miami. I don't know if the Hurricane had to shut down their summer conditioning program.
I don't know what you just said, honestly.
The University of Miami, while we've been recording this, has announced that they are shutting down their summer conditioning voluntary workouts.
Okay, I got that.
3 positive tests.
With 3 positive tests.
With only 3 positive tests. I don't know if that is because the city of Miami is going through a spike, or why would they shut it down for 3 positive tests? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, is what I was saying.
Okay. I get it.
Carey, I want to give you credit. You predicted this, that people they would get 1 positive test and the world would shut down. I didn't think that would be that senseless. I get it. Okay, you obviously quarantine the kid,
and it
quarantine
doesn't
his roommate,
and I'm
whatever,
with everyone that's like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? I agree. I'm with you. But
no, I didn't mean to put it that way. Yeah.
No. I'm not yelling at you. Like I said, I posted something earlier this week, and it immediately turned into only so many people have died from this. I feel like the Bill Barr thing with the 9/11. But it's like, yes, I know. What I'm saying is, no matter how many people die, no matter how many people are hospitalized, if they get positives, they're going to shut shit down. It doesn't matter if they're not going to die. It's just the way it's going to happen. You're not going to convince people that it's not that big of a deal for 3 healthy, athletic college kids to get this, and that we all move on and keep going. I think all of us feel like, yes, that's the way it should work, but we're not the ones responsible if the worst case scenario happens. So
that's true. But if that's the case, then I don't even know why we were trying to bother. Because Oklahoma's the only school that we know of that's not running out positive tests right now.
Yeah. Look, if it's during the season and they have 3 players test positive, I don't think they'll cancel games. Now, a team might have to forfeit.
I would hope not. Because like Josh said, if that's what we're going to do, we might as well not even try.
Once you do contact tracing and you realize those 3 players have been exposed to every single person in this program, then you have a problem. But you have to have some level of contact tracing to know, okay, well, this person was in close proximity to this many people on our team.
It was the starting running back. He's symptomatic. Oh. He has collided with literally every defender on our team.
And by the way,
I don't know that you'll have those kind of practices this year.
What do you mean?
Where you're colliding with people.
You think it's just going to be during the game?
Practice it. Bob Stoops did a practice tackling for 10 goddamn years, Carey.
This ain't new.
The other thing that I would add just before we leave, Mike Gundy having guns at okstate.edu as his
official email
is the most Mike Gundy thing I have literally ever heard.
I thought that whole freedom of information thing was not that bad. It showed that OAN were the pursuers.
Yeah.
And he just took free shit, which Eddie has done from Natty Light. I mean,
yeah, but I knew what Natty. But the thing that I took out of that though is
I like how you stopped yourself. Like, I knew Natty Light was socially responsible. No, you didn't.
Well, no, what I was saying is Mike Gundy was lying when he was acting like he didn't know what OAN was. I think that's where he'll get in trouble.
Yeah. Or he didn't know what they stood for. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He didn't know that they were anti, BLM. And
Which was bull from the beginning because he'd had that whole speech extolling their virtues. Like,
sure.
I don't think you get to play that card. But I'm
not into the cancel of anybody anymore. I mean, I'm done with the people have tried to cancel me for stupid shit. I'm done with
canceling him, but like, you just don't get to play dumb. Like, I don't know that anything he's done is worth.
Just fix it, dude.
Yeah.
Just fix it.
Agreed.
All right.
Agreed.
By the way, we don't know anything about Mike Gundy since he's left those videos out because he hadn't talked to a damn soul since then. Other than Get Up, I think.
He canceled himself.
Like, I thought he would be out at the forefront of this thing trying to affect change. He's just kind of sitting in his office doing nothing. I mean, coaching football, but still.
Shit. They better hope that he's been in his office. It sounds like he doesn't go into the football offices ever. He's probably been at his house working on his farm.
So we know
awful.
Guns at O State is so perfectly on brand for Gundy. What would be Lincoln's? Like, gone fishing, or like Heisman at OU.edu, or like what is Lincoln's obvious email?
Raider Rash 69
with the NO1 pick at OU.edu.
One of one at OU.edu.
Yeah.
Not the Stitter.
I don't think he's going to do that one.
That'd be a good one, though.
Rona free at OU.edu.
There you go. 2 weeks of zero.
I don't know. We should ask him.
Yeah,
maybe some sort of tribute to 12th Man. I mean, something, 12th Man,
Sully sucks.
biggest fan.
Sully sucks at OU.edu. How many? I mean, like, that's the other thing. Like, how many times can they have? I'm so sick, and I follow everyone all over what used to be the conference, and for some reason I still follow a bunch of A&M beat writers, but how many damn rallies can they have over that statue?
I still don't understand what exactly, like, I don't understand what's going on there, I guess.
I don't care to talk about it. It's just so stupid.
Okay.
He was a Confederate.
It just looks like a bunch of racists to me, but that's my personal opinion.
It's a bad optic.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
I think that's probably the best way to say it.
I'm sure that if Kendal Daniels went to A&M, his air quote hosts kept him away from that statue.
I've said it before, I think privately. I mean, but I don't think there was a team less excited for their fans, and not all of them, but a good portion of them, to really get to know their players. Like, those are two groups that probably were best, as far as football programs, self-interest, best kept apart.
Yeah, when that one guy said, "Are you a Blackie or are you an Aggie?"
Oh my God!
How about the Maroon Lives Matter sign that people were holding up?
Yeah,
it's
all that stuff has been tradition matters signs.
Because I mean, God, and that's so on break. Like, we believe you're born Aggie. You're born. It's in your blood. Like, it's not really. You made the choice to go to A&M. You made that choice for yourself.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And speaking of A&M, I saw Chuck Carlton throw it out there yesterday. A&M and Tech should play this year. That's the safest thing that we could do from a football perspective. They don't even have to fly from Lubbock to College Station or College Station to Lubbock. All right, I'm done.
Okay. All right. I think we're done too. I appreciate everybody listening. Thanks for everybody for tuning in again this week. And thanks for all you guys supporting the site at Soonerscoop.com. We do still expect to have football. Workouts are ongoing. Recruiting, as we said, picking up even on Sunday. The big camp going on in Durant. We'll have full coverage of that as well. So until next week, for Josh, for Eddie, for Bob, thanks to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week on the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.